one collision course. The Houston Texans riding a 7-game win streak, the #1 scoring defense in football, and a quarterback who leads the NFL in progression rate. The Los Angeles Chargers, winners of 4 straight, rebuilt after the bye, and led by an MVP caliber quarterback who's dragging a battered offensive line into the postseason. It's the Texans versus Chargers, and today we break it all down.
I'm Tex forever.
All these structures make me anxious. Look, I'm just trying to f you, not them hoes you came with. Texas forever, still twisting my fingers. Texas forever, you speaking my language. Look, all in the day, but Wednesday. Out in the field trying to score me a deal. Put my name by that X like I'm Kimbe. I do call it. I stay with my friends, stay hands in, never hand out. Look, I had to go get it, my everybody say I'm the man now. Wrist moving in and out the kitchen, my might pull up on 6 in the whip, whipping it. I'm just a young getting it. All I had was the pot I was pissing in. Now everybody want pieces, percentages. I'm just trying to get my niggas over. I did the work that they won't. All this money, cash, cars, clothes, hoes coming in fast, but I'm sipping slow. Cause it's Texas forever. You already know. It's more down at
Tex forever.
Hey, welcome in. Welcome back to the show after a short hiatus. I am your host, Miles Peacock, the Neon Peacock, as you might know me. And this is your definitive preview of the Texans versus the Chargers. All right. Houston sits at 10-5, LA 11-4. Both teams are playoff bound. Both are surging. Both are built for January. All right, and yes, this is the rematch of last year's playoff game, if you do recall, where the Houston Texans dominated 32-12 and picked off Justin Herbert 4 times. But this isn't last year. Both teams have evolved. Both teams have retooled. Both teams have reloaded a little bit here. So let's get right into it, folks. All right, leading off the right away, we're going to go ahead and kick it off with the injury report for the Houston Texans this fine evening. And just welcome in everybody. Also, right off the bat, I forgot to mention everybody in the chat. Shout out to Lee and to the GMM Network, Bogey, the gang, everybody out there, JD Guccini. Make sure you guys are liking, subbing up to the GWN Network. We need just a few more subs. That way we can get to our goal for the season. We've been hitting it hard every single week for you guys, so make sure you're checking those guys out, liking, subbing up to their channels, checking out the content. We have been putting out some shorts recently from some of our shows. We're doing the Wake Your Game Up on Tuesdays and Fridays, watch parties every single football game. And then now that the offseason is going to be drawing near for regular fantasy football, we will be having our playoff leagues as well. So some of you guys out there in the chat who are watching this later, you can go ahead and jump in there, get with us, figure out how to get on that. We will be on Fantrax doing those. And of course, those are money leagues, and we'll be paying that stuff out as well. So, it's all fun, no rake the way that we do it. We just like to kick it with everybody and get a chance to win some fantasy goodness. So, like I said, appreciate everybody out here. Hope you were enjoying the show so far. And let's get it, though. Let's talk about the injury report. I think I have something that I can pull up for you guys. That way you can follow along. Give me 1 second. Where art thou? Injury report. No, I was talking about the streaks right off the bat. There it is. Coming in hot, Houston Texans on a 7-game win streak. And at the moment, but not too far behind, if you look at that, you got the LA Chargers there, the Bolts with a 4-game win streak. And overall, also, I think Lee will probably tell you tomorrow. He will have his show up there, but you can go ahead and check that stuff out with him tomorrow at 11 a.m. Central. I may or may not be on that show. We'll just see how the evening goes. But just kicking things off right off the bat, like I mentioned, with the injury report brought to you by Sheriff Injury Lawyers, apparently. I got it off the website. But versus the Chargers this week, this is some of the more latest information for this matchup. Remember, it is on Saturday. This is a Saturday afternoon game. Should be the only game on, so all eyes on me type of feeling. But we have Azeez Al-Shire, ankle, knee. He was a full participant. Good to have him back after missing some time last week. Kamari Lassiter was a full participant. Also, he had a great game last week with a pick. Derek Stingley Jr., full participant. He was limited with an oblique. He had that pick 6 last week. Woody Marks, who we missed last week, is still questionable with an ankle, but looks like he's leaning towards playing. Johnny Carter has a hamstring injury, but he's a full participant. Austin Brinkman, Darrell Taylor, questionable, full participants. The guys that are out, Trent Brown, that's a big one. We'll go over the offensive stuff when I get there. I'll just briefly mention all of this stuff, and then we'll kick it into higher gear here, go into more detail as we go on. Trent Brown is out. He did get banged up with his ankle/knee injury late in that game last week, if you were paying attention. Ariante Ursary also banged up, had surgery, and returned to practice, questionable. So this guy's a dog. May be able to play this week. We'll find out. Dalton Schultz, who was banged up and on the injury report earlier this week, was a full participant. Looks like he should be ready to go. Sheldon Rankins on the defensive interior with the knee was a full participant, along with Dylan Horton. Danico Autry was limited, though. So we will have a little bit of help back on the interior defensive line and with the secondary, who seemed to be a little bit banged up. But looks like these guys may be back to full strength for this weekend. Key takeaways here on this, though, the players that are out: Trent Brown, starting left tackle. Starting right tackle, Trent Brown. Jamal Hill, linebacker depth, is also out, but questionable guys. Woody Marks, Deontay Ursary with that thumb, like I said, had surgery on that, returned after 2 days later to practice in a limited fashion. See if he'll be able to go, maybe put a cast on that thing and still play. It'll keep him from holding, so that's good. Taylor also questionable, but full goes. Stingley, Lassiter, Rankins, Horton, Schultz, all those guys were full goes. Limited. Danico Autry, he is trending towards playing, and then of course he is going to be a big thing to watch. Guys like Tommy Togiai also stepping up and doing really well. Even in the fantasy aspect, I played him in a lineup last week, put up like 9 fantasy points at the DL spot, which is really good considering you don't get a lot of points with those guys in our formats. But he is, like I said, been playing a lot more because guys like Mario Edwards Jr. and Tim Settle in the interior defensive line are now gone and been placed on the IR. So that's where we are with that as far as that goes. But the impact or the health impact, injury impact on these matchups. The Texans secondary is healthier than expected. I think as opposed to earlier this week, it seemed like we're going to have some guys maybe missing. They've kind of been on the mend, so that's good. It should be at full strength on the back end. Texans interior defensive line is thin but functional. I mentioned guys like Togiai and other interior pieces like Autry being able to come in, and maybe the snap count has gone up, but they're still great rotational pieces and they're still effective. So like I said, thin but still functional. And of course, the biggest thing here for this takeaway as far as the injury news goes for the Houston Texans is the O-line is still very vulnerable without Brown. And if Ursary misses, with him being limited at practice this week, could be really scary. So hopefully we can at least have Ursary in there. Like I said, maybe he'll man up and play through it. If not, maybe somebody like Blake Fisher who's out there, and that's just bad news. All in all, in general, for the Houston Texans, when I consider what they do, they like to bring him in on jumbo packages and try to run the football. But I think when that happens, they're like even worse than what they are in regular 11 personnel. So, I mean, it's crazy. Swinging them Shaolin swords. Let's see. Yeah, Shabba Sheldon Rankins is right. Should be a great game tomorrow. Your O-line's no better. Yeah, and I'll touch on that. True. Okay, good point out there. I will touch on that in a bit. Pause. But yeah, that's basically the main rundown on as far as the injury report goes for the Houston Texans. I'll mention maybe some things for the Chargers, but not in great depth like I just went over on the Houston side. So top of the morning to you, Dennis, Minnesota Den, Ginger Ninja. Appreciate you for stopping by. Hope you caught the intro or the start of the show, but otherwise we're rolling right now. Hot into it. We're about to get into the storylines and takes. We just hit the injury report and had a little intro from my British friend off the top of the show. If you didn't catch that, you might want to just go back and restart. It's pretty fun. All right. And I hope everybody had a Merry Christmas as well. All right. Before I get too far, let's go ahead and go back and get a word in from our sponsor, the Neon Peacock. Neon Peacock merch. Make sure you head on over there. Tons of new designs have gone up, and will continue to go up weekly, daily, and of course, customizable stuff. Is that even a word? Customizable stuff. Customizations available at your requests. All right, cool. Appreciate that. NeonPeacockMerch.com. Make sure you're getting over there, at least entering your email in to the mailing list. That way you get notified when there are sales that are, they typically tend to happen at least once a month, sometimes a little more sporadically than that. But that was the injury report brought to you by NeonPeacockMerch.com. Make sure you, like I said, you're heading on over there and checking out all the latest and cool designs by yours truly. Next up on the list, let me get back over to our overlay section. We can talk about some things, but there are some storylines, like I mentioned, for this particular game, and some high stakes as well. So the Texans will be fighting, or still fighting for position in the AFC South, maybe a potential number one finish. It's a long shot. Need Jacksonville Jaguars to drop a game, and then they got to win out and get a bunch of help. So we're not really talking about that, but perhaps a top 3 seed, somewhere in that, or at least jockeying position for AFC seeding. So that is what is at stake as far as the, on the Texans side. And then it's still more of a pressure game, I think, even for the Chargers. They're still alive for the number 1 seed over in their division as well. Number 1 seed overall if things fall their way. And I hate it when Lee keeps on saying, like, you never know, and blah, blah, blah. And here we are now, and this game is actually freaking important. I thought, way back in week 4 when the Texans were 0-3 or 1-4 or whatever it was, that this game would be meaningless, and we'd probably be playing our backups and, hope tanking or whatever. But here we are, Texans winners of 7 straight, looking for number 8. So crazy. So yeah, this is a pressure game. Like I said, still jockeying for position in the AFC rankings for these teams. Let's see. Do I have anything as far as the AFC rankings go? I thought I had. No, I guess not necessarily. All right, but yeah, this will be next key point here, or at least a stake here. A coaching chess match, sort of say. We have Jim Harbaugh on one side. He has the power run game, the violent defense, and then, of course, DeMeco Ryans with the number 1 scoring defense in the NFL, fewest points allowed entering Week 17, Houston Texans. And there you see the point differentials as far as what they've allowed. And they've had a really tough schedule. It hasn't been, it hasn't been that easy. Strength of schedule's been, pretty up there. You go all the way down to number 27. And you see that they're the only team down there with a winning record. The tough schedule. You have to go all the way back up to 24 at the Los Angeles Rams as far as that goes. And then you go to the very top, easiest strengths of schedule. Surprise, surprise, the 12-3. And this is through weeks 1 and 16. The New England Patriots, followed by the Denver Broncos. Our nemesis is in the AFC, and no wonder they've racked up so many darn wins. But the Texans sitting at 10-5 with that rough start, really tough battle for them to try to get back into the mix of things and win the division. Like I said, would need to have some things go their way, but as long as they keep battling and take care of business, everything that they want is right there in front of them. Everything they play the game for, the reason why they suit up, it's right there in front of them. Head coach DeMeco Ryans with that quote in the locker room after the victory over the Las Vegas Raiders. I almost said Oakland. The Las Vegas Raiders last weekend. So Houston defense has been QB slayers all year. That is very true. That has That has not changed. I think the best statistical QB happened to be Jacoby Brissett like 2 weeks ago. Probably garbage time stuff going on. So big reason for that has been because we have Stingley, who's been a bit of a Grinch this holiday season. He had a pick six this last weekend, and you just don't throw at him. So it's going to be interesting to see the game plan for the Chargers on their end, once they get there. But continuing on, how do I get myself back in the middle? Continuing on with some more of the storylines here. We're going to give some credit to the GMs for both clubs. Caserio and HERBERTS, they built resilient rosters. Both teams have had several injuries throughout the course of the season. The Chargers specifically with their offensive line, and they've been able to plug and play guys and still works. Justin Herbert's had a broken hand and dealt with some injuries himself, and he's just kind of like an Iron Man, and he puts the team on his back and basically takes care of business all around over there on his own. So much credit to like I said, the GMs here specifically for being able to fit pieces in and plug and play along the way and getting both of these ball clubs to 10, 11 wins on the season. So the Texans did have, like I mentioned, I think the fifth hardest schedule or whatever. So kudos to them for being able to scrape it all together and be able to turn this thing a bit around. I know that the offensive line coming into the season was probably one of the worst in the league, and so they've done a lot better job. I think this is a weird one, but it's week 16 pass protection rating right here in this graphic. Number one, I don't know, 33rd team. They're probably smoking crack. 0 sacks allowed, I guess, is why. And you see the Chargers up there. They played Dallas last week as well. So Texans played the Raiders, and that's probably a big reason why. But, effective enough to get the job done versus the right opponents, right? So wins are wins regardless, no matter how you do it. I think the Texans know how to win ugly, and they do it very well. CJ Stroud knows how to, keep time of possession, not turn the ball over, and those are huge keys to victory, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But the last meeting, like I did mention, the storylines carried over into this game in particular. Texans 32, Chargers 12, the Herbert with the 4 INTs, but Houston did end up, dictating everything in regards to that last meeting. So let's move on into the statistical breakdowns, a little bit more stats thrown your way. Team rankings. Houston Texans, number 1 scoring defense, 249 points allowed. You saw the graphic there earlier. I think that's still current, 249 if I'm not mistaken. There it is. 249 points allowed. Chargers are actually number 8 in scoring defense. This graphic doesn't go all the way down there, but they have a very stingy defense as well. Kudos to them for what they've been able to accomplish over there. We'll talk a little bit about some of their pieces and how they match up when we get to that point of the podcast. But let's talk quarterbacks real quick. Justin Herbert, 349 yards. 3,491 yards, 25 TDs to 12 INTs. QBR rating the last time these teams met, however, was a 40.9. We saw how that game went. He was forced off script due to a lot of O-line issues in that game, lots of high pressure. But on the season high EPA, low CPOE, so he has a boom or bust profile for him. So it just depends on what Justin Herbert we're going to see tomorrow, right? And that's basically, what it's going to boil down to. We'll talk about nightmare fuel and the rest of the factors for this matchup tomorrow as well. We'll get into that well indeed, but this is going to be key. We'll talk about that too, though, when we get into the predictions portion. But on the other end of the field, or on the other side of the football, CJ Stroud, 2,628 yards, so definitely not in the 3,400 or nearly 3,500 as Justin Herbert is right now, but a 16-6 TD to interception ratio, which is a lot better, at 98.2% progression rate, number 1 in the NFL. I do believe I have a chart for that. QB progression rate right there. You see CJ Stroud at the very top of the list. Designated receiver, you see his first read, second read, check down, scramble rate, his progression rate, 98.2, and then drops all the way down to guys like Joe Flacco, Dak Prescott, Sam Darnold, who's been very good, Drake May, and the likes. So he sits in the pocket, goes through his progressions, hits these guys, and is very decisive. Of course, these stats are from weeks 9 through 15, minimum 90 plays ran, as you can see there. But he's very good sitting in the pocket, going through his progressions and getting the ball out quickly. So good job for him. But, PFF grades things kind of, crazy. 34 out of 45 QBs and adjusted completion rate. I don't know if you want to adjust the completion rate. You just look at his regular completion rate, and he's above average. His passing game has been inconsistent, though, this season, and I do believe that falls a lot on the run game and the offensive line. The Texans have been inefficient at best. They lack explosiveness in the deep ball passing attack because they can't protect Stroud. He has to get rid of the football very quickly. And they have too many 1 to 2 yard runs, very predictable in the run game. So that sets them behind early in downs, and that gets them off schedule, and it makes it harder for CJ Stroud to pick up first downs to sustain drives. So they must attack the edges versus the Chargers in the run game. That's the way that they're going to be able to move the football, sustain long drives. Woody Marks being back this week should help them be a more effective run game that we've seen since his absence last week and the week before that when he was forced out of the game versus the Arizona Cardinals. Now, the Chargers on the other side, though, they cannot run between the tackles to save their life. They're 32nd in run blocking, according to PFF, in that category, running between the tackles. So it's going to be a real test to see if they can rely on the off-tackle runs, maybe some misdirections. That way they can maybe perhaps break contain on the hyper-aggressive Texans edge rusher duo, which is the nightmare fuel. And if they can do that, then maybe they'll have some luck like you saw Ashton Genty have this last weekend. You know, when he kind of got bottled up behind the line of scrimmage, people kind of thought that he was maybe tackled already, and then he was able to break something. Perhaps the Chargers can do that in some sort of misdirection type of counter plays where you catch the Texans heading in one direction, you can come back the other. We did see Hampton with 86 yards and a TD last week, so we'll see if he can still build off of that. If he has 86 in a TD this upcoming week, I think that the Texans would probably still win that game, and they'd be happy with being able to hold him to that. So we'll see what happens in that regard when the matchup happens, right? But some more advanced analytics. Turnover differential. Texans are plus 15 in that category. Let's see, do I have anything? Strength of schedule, pressure rates. Well, I guess that has a lot to do with it, those pressure rates, but no. But yeah, 15th. They have plus 15 in the turnover differential. That gives them the second ranking as far as that goes. Chargers are only plus 3 in the category. They're ranked 9th in the NFL. The pass rushers, we talked about nightmare fuel, or I said we were going to talk about them. 87 pressures, number 1 in the AFC. That's Will Anderson Jr. all on his own. 13 sacks, elite disruption. Danielle Hunter, the Hunter, 75 pressures, 14 sacks, one of the most efficient closers in football at the moment. These two guys will be coming after Justin Herbert, trying to get him off his spot and make him very uncomfortable in the pocket, out of the pocket, just all evening when they play tomorrow. Houston's secondary, in conjunction with these guys, Derek Stingley, Jalen Petrie, Kamari Lassiter, and Kalen Bullock, I believe, all have 4 interceptions apiece this season, if I'm not mistaken. So they've kind of moved some other people around, Miles Bryant and other players, to try to get back in that other safety spot. They've even signed some guys from the practice squad recently. So we'll see how that goes. I do believe that they're getting Jalen Reed back pretty soon. He's eligible to come back from off the IR. I'm not too sure if he was already fully healthy or not, but either way, it would either be Reed, the rookie draft pick, or Miles Bryant playing that other safety spot. But regardless, the other 4 DBs for the Houston Texans, like I mentioned, Bullock, Petrie, Lassiter, and Stingley, all with 4 interceptions apiece. Houston Texans have 17 interceptions as a defense, so they've just been killing it this year. Chargers also have 17 interceptions as a defense, surprisingly, if you take a look at that. But the turnover differential is the big thing, the big deal. Chargers are a little more prone to turn the football over, and Houston Texans have done a really good job of keeping control of the football, time of possession, moving the ball down the field, and not turning it over. So that, in conjunction with having one of the best defenses in the NFL, has been a recipe for them to win football games. So no other secondary in the NFL can even match the Houston Texans secondary. It's not even a question as far as that goes. It's the way they are able to swarm and cover on the back end. And then one of the bigger issues, of course, was the interior defensive line depth. I know everybody wants to make a big stink about losing Tim Settle and some of these other guys, but the Houston Texans had, I believe, 8 interior defensive linemen earlier in the season, and so they still have a bunch of guys even after Mario Edwards and Tim Settle have been sent to IR. You have Rankins, who's now come back and has been a full go. Autry, who was limited situational, has been doing really well. Horton's a full go. You got guys like Tommy Togiai, like I mentioned, who's been coming in. Fatukasi, I do believe they lost earlier in the year. He may or may not be coming back as well. So, I'm not too particularly worried about, like I said, the interior defensive line, especially with the Chargers struggles doing that themselves, running the football between the tackles. So here we are now, finally at the key matchups section of the podcast. So number one, I did talk to you about Texans defensive lineman Will Anderson and DANEILLE Hunter, the nightmare fuel, versus the Chargers offensive line, which PFF grades 30th in pass blocking and 32nd in run blocking. So they're going to have their hands full with the nightmare fuel tomorrow. PFF breakdown, Chargers O-line is bottom 2 in both run and pass blocking. That they have a lot of trouble running the football inside. They can't hold up in true pass sets. So if it's third and long, Texans are going to be able to pin their ears back and come after Herbert in that account. And then if Herbert's forced to escape and create off script, that's going to be a big key, maybe an X factor. If the Texans have trouble corralling him, which they've had trouble with mobile quarterbacks in the past, then it could be an issue. But if they take care of business the way they did against Josh Allen, then I think that it could be a deciding factor in this football game. So huge X factor for them. Chargers will try to run off tackle and break contain, like I mentioned. So we'll see if the Texans maintain the edge discipline, and both DANEILLE Hunter and these guys, Will Anderson, can, like I said, not just be super overly aggressive and hungry to get after the quarterback, but perhaps they're able to maintain that discipline and hold off the run games, the outside run game as well. Because my guess is that's what the Chargers are going to try to do: run off tackle towards the outside and gain yards that way, break contain. That's the way to do it versus Houston Texans. So we talked about that. Texans got to maintain edge discipline. Some of the betting lines. So I scoured the betting lines for this, multiple websites. This one's according to BetMGM. They have Herbert under 209.5 passing yards. You can have a same game parlay there. Texas money line plus the under 39.5 points plus Nico Collins over 63.5 would equal a plus 48, and I think that covers. So check that one out, and I'll put that in the chat after the podcast is over so you guys can see that one. So same game parlay from BetMGM if you're in those states are available. And this is not, I'm not saying put that your house or anything like that up for collateral, but I'm just saying Texas money line plus the under of 39.5 plus Nico Collins over 63.5 receiving yards. That would be a plus 418. So you put 100 down and get plus 418, and I think that they cover there in that regard. But that's an interesting one, though. The betting line at BetMGM does have Herbert at just under 209.5 passing yards. So do with that what you will with that information. All right, number 2, Texans passing game versus the Chargers secondary. PFF has Stroud with some accuracy concerns, and I think this kind of goes back to last week. He was a little off his game, but Stroud's adjusted completion rate, 34 out of 45 QBs, like I mentioned. The passing game has been extremely inconsistent. The Chargers secondary is disciplined, and they prevent a lot of explosives, and the Texans have had trouble with explosives all season. If it's not a Nico Collins in-breaking route, which they hardly ever run, then it's very hard to get the ball down the field. I feel like sometimes they just force it situationally and get lucky, like we saw last week with Nico Collins basically icing the game on a long catch. So we'll see what happens there. Big X factor in this situation, though, is if the Chargers can rattle Stroud early, then Houston's offense can stall, right? And so, then you're putting your defense in bad situations, and we know what happens there. Houston's offense needs to get rolling. Texans run game versus the Chargers front. PFF has that inefficient plus, lacking a lot of explosiveness. We know this. The Texans run game lacks chunk plays. We did get one from Nick Chubb last week. I think it was a 30-yard run. CJ Stroud tried to get out there and block Max Crosby. It was hilarious. But there's too many negative and neutral runs within this, and that all falls back on Nick Caley's horrible play calling and the personnel that they have up front with the offensive line. So they need to attack the edges, not the interior. It's basically the same recipe as the Chargers, I think, in this regard. The offenses are pretty similar, except Chargers are just way more explosive. Justin Herbert's been Superman and just been doing great things all season long. The key to this, the Texans need early down success, and I talked about that. They got to avoid third and long versus the Chargers and those DBs. Point number 4 here, Texans secondary versus Quentin Johnson. And I know it's crazy for me to be talking about huge like this, but it's true. We've seen him have big plays in the past. The Texans have 4 DBs with 4 interceptions, so this could go 2 ways. Johnson had 104 yards and a TD last week. The Texans have ball hawks in the secondary, and if Herbert's going to be aggressive and try to push the ball downfield, then they need to take advantage of that like they did last season. Huge had 0 catches last year in the playoffs, and that was a huge swing deciding factor. I do think that the Chargers have more weapons. They've added Keenan Allen now, and you have Lad McConkey, who had a great game versus Houston last year, albeit it was all garbage time and like 86-yard touchdown came on one play super late in the game. But regardless, I think he still had 180 yards or something like that. So, I just got to be careful. Be careful with that. I have the utmost confidence, though, in the Texans pass rush and the DBs covering the back end. So, we'll continue to monitor that. It's just going to be interesting to see if Herbert can get the ball downfield, or if they're going to really try to wear down on the defense and run the football, what the game plan is going to be for the Chargers. And I don't know if they will be able to give Herbert time to push the ball down the field too huge. So it could be one of those well-timed, I'm throwing it off my back foot as I'm getting hit and it's a bomb deep and he burns, Bullock or Lassiter or somebody, or even Stingley maybe. So, because he is a talented receiver, and if he can catch the football in a 50-50 situation, it gets a little scary for me. Just a little bit. It's just something to monitor. I wouldn't bring it up if it wasn't something. So, and then of course, the last point number 5, coaching decisions, right? And this is huge here. I think that Harbaugh, he's played well. He knows what he's doing. He has a ton of experience in these things. So the Texans, like I said, they have the number 1 scoring defense. You kind of want to lean on that, right? Chargers have the number 8 scoring defense. I feel like the Texans plus 15 in the turnover differential. I think that the Chargers are too aggressive. Harbaugh's too aggressive, or Herbert and Hard Dog together are too aggressive that could kind of bite them in the butt. But at the same time, if they just lean on the run game and it's not getting going, then that's something, right? So, if D'Amico Ryans can win the field position game, then I think that the Texans win the football game. But if Harbaugh wins the time of possession game, because that's what they're trying to do, just like the Texans, and they can keep their defense fresh and, basically take the ball away, keep it out of CJ's hands, do the exact same thing that the Houston Texans are trying to do, then I believe the Chargers can win this football game. But here's a quick betting snapshot. All right, we'll talk about the spread. Like I mentioned it earlier. Who? Brandon? I don't know. Who? I was talking about a bunch of stuff. So, Chargers -1.5 on FanDuel, DraftKings, BetMGM, and they're -1 on Caesars. Total of 39.5 on all books. The money line is Chargers -130, Texas +110 on BetMGM. Here are the best bets: Herbert under 209.5 passing yards. Texas money line, I've mentioned it earlier, under 39.5. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. Nico Collins over 63.5. Texans money line plus Collins plus the under. That's what I would do for my same game parlay. The analysis and predictions portion, we have gotten to it finally, folks. We're going to see what PFF said. Then we're going to see what I say. Then we're going to end the broadcast. All right. So here we go. There was 2 analysts. They were talking about this game. I'm not going to mention names, but I will say that what each of them kind of brought to the table here. One believes that Houston's defensive line will dominate the trenches and overwhelm the Chargers' bottom-tier offensive line. So their prediction was the Texans 23-21, very close game there. And then the second one was believes that the Chargers can rattle Stroud, limit the explosives on that offense, force Houston into long downs, right? And so both actually agreed on this as well and said that maybe it would be the Chargers 22-19. So I think that they both changed their mind and went with the Chargers, but they said that both of these both of these guys said that this particular matchup would be decided at the line of scrimmage, and I tend to agree with them there as well. So I think they ended up both siding on the Chargers side, although one initially took the Texans in a very close match. It was a 2-point swing on either side, right? So I would be the tiebreaker here. Obviously, I'm a Texans dude. I'm going to stick with my Texans. They've been surprising all season. Hopefully they can continue on with the 8-game win streak here and pull one out. It's going to be very difficult traveling to the City of Angels to get it done, but Bulls on parade. Hopefully they can stampede their way out there and do the damn thing this week, week 17. Let's throw that up there. And then, to be honest with you, though, the Chargers do have the better offense, but the Texans have, I believe at this moment, the healthier quarterback. Herbert's been a little banged up, and I think he's going to be under duress. So if he takes a couple of hits, it's not going to be fun. It's going to be a little interesting to see how, as the game progresses, how his passes look, when there's pressure in the pocket and after he gets knocked down a couple of times or whatever it may be. So we'll see how that goes. The Texans do have the best unit in this game, though. Pause. and that we're talking about the defense, the number one defense in football. Herbert is incredible. Not going to take anything away from him, but he's behind a depleted offensive line. Houston's pass rush is peaking right now. They have been peaking all season. They're playing great football. They swarm. And the Texans win ugly better than anybody. So with a 39.5 point over-under, my pick is the Texans 23, Chargers 20. Player of the game, Will Anderson Jr., getting the pressures, getting it done, doing his thing. He did it last week versus Geno. He's just one of those guys that you can rally around. A lot of energy, very enthusiastic. They're going to be hyped coming off the bus. Time difference is 2 hours, so a 4 o'clock game over there, that's 6 p.m. over here. That's perfect prime time energy for them, so it should feel like a night game. Time to shine. And here's my bold call, bold prediction. Texans defense sets up either a short field touchdown or something like that, pick six maybe, or a fumble recovery, and that flips the entire momentum of the game, and they'll come out with a win on this one. So before I hit the outro, let's check in with everybody in the chat. Yeah, it's going to be come down to whoever does not make the turnovers, I think. Yeah. Cap for life. What's up, Cap? Big homecoming for CJ back. That's true. We'll see. He hasn't had like great games when he goes to LA, to be honest. I can see this leaning on the run game quite a bit. Yeah, for sure. I mean, both teams are going to probably try to do that. No lie. So this is a heavyweight AFC fight. It's going to come down to it. It's two elite defenses. No joke. You got Derwin James flying around over there. They have face Thule. So they have a bunch of great players as well on the defense, but I can let Lee talk about those guys tomorrow. Didn't want to lean too much into his part of the podcast for what he's going to be doing on the GWN. So make sure you hit up that show tomorrow, 11 a.m. Central Time, to catch all of the Chargers Power Hour, and he'll break down this matchup on his end. I will be back most likely after the game with a full breakdown just to see what it means for the AFC playoff picture as we move through this. But I just want to thank everybody, of course, for listening, coming in to enjoy the Texans versus Chargers mega preview that I provided for you guys today. Let's see. We got two elite quarterbacks and two playoff-bound teams, so it should be a good matchup tomorrow regardless. I am expecting a defensive matchup, like I said. Prediction 23-20. Hopefully the Texans can pull this one off. But that's about it. That's all I got. As far as this one goes, I hope everybody had a great evening. They've been enjoying their Christmas break. Go Texans. H-Town made, baby. H is up. And remember, everyone, that you can't have peace. Or wait, no, I'm sorry. You can't spell peacock. I always mess that one up, man. You can't spell peacock without peace. There it is.
It's special. We started practice. We practiced off this week, man. Hey, them boys are tired. Let's keep it up this week, man. Texans!
Little bitch.